A national system of innovation exists, is shaped by the macroeconomic environment. If the environment is not favorable, it will affect it negatively. In other words, a poor macroeconomic environment is going to stifle and inhibit innovation. And Dr. Jameen, I want to get your thoughts on how the macroeconomic environment is shaping our innovation performance. As the acting CEO has said, and we all know this, the business R&D expenditure has been declining. In fact, it has declined from 49% in 2014 to 35% in 2022, which is quite a sharp decline. On the other hand, we have another problem, which is our decline in competitiveness, which we now currently, in 2022, we stood at 60 out of 67 countries, which is not a good place to be in. And in fact, our neighbors are now ahead of us. What I want you to do and to share your thoughts is, do you think, my glasses are failing me a bit, do you think that the weak economic growth, infrastructure deficits, that's better, and policy uncertainty are directly impacting the investment climate and discouraging firms from committing towards long-term investment in R&D? And I also want you to expand and say how to these microeconomic factors, because most of the time we've been looking at inhibitors, why the R&D performance in R&D by business is low from a micro perspective.
Thank you very much, Dr. Madikizela, and for this opportunity. You will see that, and I want to exploit my privilege right here to make one general point about the Science and Technology Indicators Report. As you can see, when I began being involved in it, I had black hair. This indicators report has developed over the last 15, 20 years that I've been associated with it. I have always found it to be an incredibly valuable source of information for the country. I have been extremely frustrated over many years that so few people in South Africa have actually recognized that such a report actually exists. I was appalled some years ago when a member of the National Development Plan, one of the commissioners, told me that they didn't know anything about it. I said, but all the information is in this report. So I'm absolutely thrilled, Minister, to have heard you this morning giving such a succinct analysis of the findings and recognizing the importance of this report. I think it needs to go out far more broadly, and especially to penetrate not only the public sector and the university sector, and I'm thrilled to see Dr. Morris here from my alma mater at Wits attending, but I think it needs to be publicized within the broader private sector to start taking advantage of it and to understand some of the messages that come across. And one of the important messages that you alluded to was the perennial decline in the level of investment in R&D. I remember when I was project leader, we were at 0.72% of GDP. And the intention was to push that up to 1.5% of GDP. Instead, I see we're now at 0.61% of GDP. And one of the important contributors towards this decline has been the decline of the business sector. One needs to understand what forces have actually brought this about. And in particular, I could show you a graph which shows that South Africa's macroeconomic performance relative to the rest of the world, we were matching the rest of the world, the overall average, very well from about 1994 all the way to 2013. And suddenly from 2013-14, we see South Africa's performance starting to fade behind that of the global economy. And it is no coincidence that all these innovation indicators have also been in, not all of them, but a lot of them have been in decline, especially R&D expenditure. And a lot of that has to do with the declining confidence in the macroeconomy. How has that come about? Unfortunately, our political history led to a transformation of our economy in the early part of the last decade, whereby this phenomenon of state capture started taking hold, and resources that should have been going towards development and research started being diverted to, through various means, into the pockets of a handful of individuals. And one of the vehicles through which that was effected was through basically emaciating our institutions and especially our state-owned enterprises. And if you look at a graph of capital investment in the country, you will see that although the business sector has not reduced its investment overall, it's reduced it in R&D, but at the heart of the decline of capital investment, which has taken us from 19% of GDP to 14% of GDP over the past decade in terms of capital investment, has been the tremendous fall of investment by SOEs, because they've run out of money. That money was taken away from them. And that has been and that's had a knock-on effect in causing a decline in the manufacturing sector and leading to the de-industrialisation of the South African economy more generally. At the heart of it has also been the fact that a lot of the systems put in place in order to facilitate the state capture involved over-regulation of the economy. And that has stifled a lot of small business, especially small business activity. Big businesses are able to cope with the regulations. They have dedicated teams to do that. Small businesses do not. And we've seen this perennial decline in the level of innovation, especially at the small business level due to over-regulation. And then the second leg of this that is going to be dealt with in a moment on another, but the minister spent quite a lot of time on it, and he's absolutely correct. The deterioration in some of our educational outcomes, especially our fear of maths and science. And I would go further. Minister, you alluded to this being a problem with the black population being too scared of maths. No, I've got grandchildren. I see it in the white population as well. It's something that has to change in this country. And a lot of it has to also, though, go back to, you mentioned the great benefits of emphasizing primary school development and, in particular, early childhood development. And I would say that is absolutely critical because due to the ravages of apartheid, we have seen a destruction of the social fabric of the majority of people in this country, so that you have only 31% of the young children of today living with two parents at home. And not having parents to supplement the educational system effectively is a critical element in why we are not developing enough skills, especially in not only in maths and science, in literacy, but also, obviously, that filters through into maths and science afterwards. But clearly, all these factors interact to result in this deterioration in... let's not get overly depressed. We're not talking about a collapse in our system. We're just talking about a relative underperformance that is extremely frustrating. The minister and I happened to be a part of a IDASA delegation to Poland in 1996, I remember so clearly, and we had discussions with the Polish delegations, and they were talking about their tremendous shift in their emphasis on education and science and technology and innovation, and also bringing in the private sector to assist them in that regard. And the sad part that frustrates me terribly, at that time South Africa's economy was about a third larger than the Polish economy. Today the Polish economy has a GDP of $1 trillion. South Africa's is 400 billion. They took advantage of these opportunities. We have been lagging behind